Hello and welcome to ACIT. In this introductory video, I'll be mentioning a few points about the anatomical position, structure, and functions of the kidneys that must be put in mind before actually getting into the details of renal anatomy and physiology. So what are the kidneys? They're bilateral bean-shaped organs located in the posterior part of the abdomen. And by bilateral, I mean that they lie on either side of the vertebral column. The kidneys can be described as reddish-brown in color, each being the size of a clenched fist. Now on this image, we can see that both kidneys, that are about 3 vertebrae in length, lie anterior to ribs number 11 and 12, but the right kidney is positioned slightly lower than the left, and that's due to the presence of the largest organ in the body, and that is the liver in the right hypochondrial region. Now, another important point that we need to mention before moving on to the vasculature of the kidneys is that they lie retroperitoneally, which basically means that they lie posterior or behind the peritoneum, which is the serous sac that lines the abdominopelvic cavity. Now moving on to the vasculature, which I'll just briefly mention in this video. Now on the right, we can see that the kidneys are supplied by the renal arteries that emerge laterally from the abdominal aorta, immediately distal to the superior mesenteric artery, which is the second visceral branch of the abdominal aorta, the first being the celiac trunk. We can also see here that the right renal artery is longer than the left, and that's because the abdominal aorta is positioned slightly to the left of the midline, and also because the renal artery has to cross the inferior vena cava posteriorly in order to get to the right kidney. The kidneys drain directly into the inferior vena cava via the renal veins, which emerge anterior to the renal arteries at the hilum of the kidneys, which is displayed on the left. Now, before getting to the functions of the kidneys, we need to know what is the structure that actually performs these functions, and that is the nephron that's displayed on the right. The nephron is just basically a system of tubules that spans the outer cortex and the inner medulla of the kidney, as we can see on the left. There are about 1 million nephrons in each kidney, so we can just imagine how extremely small they have to be in order to fit in these fist-sized organs. The nephron consists of the first part, which is the expanded beginning of the nephron, and that is the Bowman's capsule or the glomerular capsule. And then it also consists of the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, the distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting duct. Now, to begin with the functions, it's always better to divide them into 4 main categories, and that includes the excretory, regulatory, endocrine, and metabolic functions of the kidneys. So we'll go ahead and start with the excretory functions. The moment we hear the word kidneys, some of the words that come across our minds are urine, or even bathroom, or urea, which is one of the metabolic waste products excreted by the kidneys. Another is creatinine, which is the standard for assessing renal function, and that is because its level depends mainly on renal function. Now comes the famous question, why not urea? We all expect urea to be used as standard, but that's because its level does not only depend on renal function, but on many other factors as well. And to prove that point, an increase in urea level in urine can also be due to severe dehydration. Now, some other products that are excreted by the kidneys include drugs and toxins, which will be discussed in more details in later videos. And now, since we've got an idea about the excretory functions, let's go ahead and start with the regulatory. Now, what is the purpose of these regulatory functions? For our body cells to survive and function properly, they need their environment to be just right. And the kidneys play a very major role in doing that. and that is by regulating the water balance, electrolyte balance, and the acid-base balance, which I'll be talking about in more details in the coming videos. Now moving on to the endocrine functions, which includes the hormones that are produced and secreted by the kidneys themselves. The first hormone I'll be talking about is erythropoietin, which is produced by the endothelial cells of the peritubular capillaries that travel alongside the nephrons to allow reabsorption and secretion. Erythropoietin stimulates the production of red blood cells by acting on the precursor cells of the erythrocytes. Renin is another hormone produced by the juxtaglomerular apparatus of the kidneys that promotes the production of the protein angiotensin, which is part of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system that regulates blood pressure by causing vasoconstriction. Another unique class of hormones that are produced by many kidney cells as well as nearly all the organs in the body is the prostaglandins. And what makes them unique is that they're produced at the site where they're needed. Unlike most other hormones that are secreted from glands and carried via the bloodstream to where they're needed. And to end this video, I'll be talking about one of the very important metabolic functions of the kidneys, and that is the production of the active form of vitamin D, that's 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, by hydroxylating the vitamin 25-dihydroxycholecalciferol at the number 1 position. Now this is required for regulating the calcium and phosphate levels in the body. To understand the vitamin D activation process in more details, please watch the next video. I hope you liked this video. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.